we're back. This is for FYA, as you already know. Another Fearless Youth interview, trying to empower the youth. Today we have Haze, a very good DJ. I should let you say that, really, innit? Yeah, introduce yourself.
Well, my name's Haze. I'm a DJ producer from Nottingham Midlands area, specialising in house music, and then I do a lot of bits around Nottingham particularly, but then up and down the UK and in Europe, in Ibiza and a couple of other places.
Nice.
And a pleasure to be here as well. So
Cool. And I like to hear that you're international, not just national. So yeah, I'm just gonna ask you a couple questions.
Yeah.
Answer them however you like to.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. First question: what first got you into music?
Going back a long time. When I was a kid in primary school, I first started to play musical instruments and that sort of thing. So I learned how to play the flute, believe it or not, which is a bit of a abstract instrument. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, and that got me to love sort of music. And then as I sort of got older, I started listening to like electronic music, and especially Martin Garrix was a big inspiration when he sort of hit the radio and sort of commercial side, and then sort of dive deeper into that, just sort of discovered DJing from there, and that was sort of where my love for electronic music came from. Nice.
I'm kind of getting into electronic music myself, you know, like Catronada.
Yeah. All music has its pros and benefits as well. So any music can be good music, but sort of a bit about preference.
Mm-hmm. So who inspired you, if anyone, inspired you to make music?
So as I said, just Martin Garrix was an initial inspiration, but even sort of through like Sonny Fodera and MK, they sort of helped me look into the sort of the house side and sort of really sort of specialise in that. But then even people go into people like Shy FX, for example, and sort of jungle and drum and bass has all been a really big influence on just sort of music as a whole, really. And just looking at, what I really love is not just making the music and how the music is, but how it has an impact on people, on culture and people, and there's a whole background.
So like the roots,
everything, the roots of everything. Coming from house music or from R&B or from reggae or from drum and bass, it's all got a big community around it, which I find really interesting.
Nice. So would you say you've got like a creative process?
Ish to an extent.
If you want to give it away.
It's a bit of an interesting one, because I'd say that sort of changes, if that makes sense. Like usually when I'm sort of, again, the creative process changes depending on what you're doing. But like making music, for example, would be, I'd either focus very heavily on like a chord progression, pianos. I do love my pianos. They're pretty much throughout everything that I create and a lot of what I play. But yeah, just sort of start with those or start with a vocal. But really, mainly just whatever inspires me at the time is kind of where I go with, and just have to run from there.
So it's kind of like you're in the moment type
in
of
the
person.
moment, sort of thing, yeah, just try and take inspiration when it hits.
Cool. I'm trying to find a good question. So what challenges did you face as a young DJ entering the music industry, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Now that is a good question, I'll give you that. It's very interesting, because I started DJing in nightclubs when I was 17. So the initial first hurdle was being in a nightclub at 17.
Yeah. ID
so
every time.
It was obviously not being of age, and the bit of controls and measures they had to put in place around that. And then again, there's a lot of politics within the music industry, and there's a lot more of the business side that you have to learn rather than just DJing or making music. You have to navigate all of that. So I think definitely going from there and just trying to learn and work out sort of how record labels work, which is still something that I'm still working on. It's a can of worms, that is. But again, working with venues and all of that sort of thing. But it's been a really interesting sort of journey to go from just DJing to sort of seeing how the whole industry works, and moving through there, and then politics between different DJs or different brands or different venues, that sort of thing. So it's just a very interesting way to navigate. But again, personally, I think it's just trying to be as friendly as possible, provide what the best that you can do, really,
Cool.
and go from there.
Cool. I mean, because I used to be like an engineer,
Yeah.
and I had like a couple of artists and whatnot, and they used to get like gate kept a lot. Does that happen with DJs?
To an extent, yeah, you can get sort of pigeonholed into certain camps and that sort of thing, which comes with sort of the business competition.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So yeah, it's something that can be a bit frustrating, but unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's a lot of these entities are making money. And without them making money, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So
exactly.
So it's you've got to take what
it's how the industry goes, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
So a bit of a stray question here. If you could have any type of superpower, what would it be?
Oof, that's a very difficult question. I've got to think about that. I don't know. Maybe to read people's minds, to be able to tell people first of all what they sort of are thinking, and then also on that sort of sense, it'd also be nice to know what people want. Say, for example, with music and that sort of thing, which vice versa could be a detriment in terms of you could end up just making music for what everybody wants and not be creative.
Really
Exactly. So an interesting one. So maybe that, but that's definitely something to think about. But yeah, no, I think that's probably what I'll go with.
What are your experiences like performing across like different countries in Europe, and how does the vibes vary from place to place?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one because every show is different at the end of the day. But yeah, I love going abroad, meeting new people especially. And then sort of I enjoy playing out in the sun. So a lot of places I've played in Ibiza or Napa, for example, have been outside, things like Nishi Beach, and then a couple of boat parties in Ibiza, that sort of thing.
That's nice.
So yeah, just enjoying being outside. I do quite enjoy playing outside. So it gives that sort of festival feel as well. And then down to like places like Eden in Ibiza. Again, almost feels a bit like here because you're inside a nightclub, but again, everything's 3 times the size. So yeah, really interesting. But I've always enjoyed sort of traveling, meeting new people, and yeah, going to nice places and that sort of thing. So that's a little bit of a perk.
Would you get like a different response from when you go to like Ibiza, or is it more or less the same?
I think so, yeah. I think it sort of links to where you're playing to an extent, even sort of in the different countries. But yeah, people generally tend to be a bit more up for it because potentially they're on holiday, that sort of thing. So they're ready to sort of go. But yeah, it's slightly different. But again, I'd say everywhere, even not necessarily abroad, like anywhere up the country here, or even certain different venues and styles of events in Nottingham, you get a very different feel from each one almost. So yeah,
nice.
It's interesting.
Nice. So yeah, what's the biggest risk you've ever taken in your career? If you can divulge that information.
Gotta think about that. I think I'm trying to think about risk specifically. Like, it's quite hard to define sort of what a risk could be, what a risk couldn't be, especially if it's gone sort of well.
Exactly.
So I think just moving, it's always a big risk moving from venue to venue or trying to change things up. Or again, sort of when last year when I tried to go abroad, did go abroad and did sort of 4 or 5 countries in the space of a couple of months. That was always a little bit risky in terms of how it'd be perceived and that sort of thing, and then sort of B, just making it work and that sort of thing.
Having to be like quick.
Having to be quick, having to do. It was a really, really interesting experience for me. But again, it was very self-led, so how that would be perceived media-wise and sort of industry-wise was an interesting risk, but it was definitely a great experience to do.
Cool, nice. So yeah, if anyone in the world, any company, who would you like to get sponsored by?
I'm trying to think. Not for my health, but Red Bull seems to be one that I have a tendency
that's a good one for DJs,
to drink, to be fair. But yeah, just trying to think about sort of companies, just places that put on sort of events. Like, I couldn't necessarily think about a company, but I'd love to do more stuff within sports. So I know obviously the F1 and Heineken and all the brands very similar to Red Bull that try and do all these events, and just something that's different and interesting outside of the normal format. And as much as I love working clubs and festivals, it's always very interesting to do something that you never expected, like going and DJing for a cricket game or a football game or that sort of thing, or potentially the F1, which I've seen recently at Silverstone.
Recently, I seen I don't know, I forgot what the guy's name was, but he did a set for skiers.
Right,
people skiing in like a snow type of...
So they have après. So I did 2 gigs for that this year. That's always
nice.
A bit of I love my skiing, to be fair. They have basically like a big outdoor nightclub style thing on the top of the slopes. So people go skiing all day and then they come to there. So I played at La Folie Douce, if that's pronounced correctly. It's French, but earlier in March, which was absolutely wicked. Just because, again, different place, different environment, and different people as well.
I'd love to go to one of those, honestly.
It's very good fun.
That's sick.
And I get a week of skiing, so can't complain.
Right, and you like skiing as well, so easy.
It's win-win.
So that takes me on to, what hobbies do you do?
There you go. Perfect transition. So I enjoy skiing. I used to be quite an avid swimmer before I started DJing, really, which I sort of go back to, but not really competitive anymore.
It was competitive before.
So that was most of where I started, and then transitioned into DJing, really. But
so it's a swift
bit of a change, but I'm trying to think, but most of it, because I love what I do, spend a lot of time working, but travelling, if that's a hobby. I've always loved going and seeing new places.
No, that's definitely a hobby. Definitely.
One of my more expensive hobbies. So I'd say probably those, and then I used to do a bit of flying back in the day, which I'm picking up on again now. So,
flying like airplane?
As a pilot. So
cool. I thought you meant like parachuting.
No. I would love to go skydiving. That's on my bucket list.
It's on everyone's bucket list I've spoken to recently.
All good.
So, do you believe TikTok and other social media channels are the best avenue for sharing and promoting music these days?
It's a tricky one. I'd say it's a necessary evil, almost.
I like that. That gets quoted today.
Because it's a great platform, don't get me wrong, because you can just get everyone everywhere, but it does create a whole other world of, almost feels a little bit like it's less about the art, it's less about the music and more about the 10 seconds that can become viral within TikTok or within. So I think it definitely has some positives and negatives. Because you can get music out as far and wide to people that would never have heard it before. But again, it does create this sort of environment of maybe 10 seconds of a song was right, or even a poor, not to try and say that, but a poor quality piece of work that just gets picked up and then becomes gets caught when someone spent 100+ hours in the studio trying to do something. So it's an interesting one, but I don't think it's going anywhere. So it's just something that we've got to pick up.
Yeah, it's something that you kind of have to do to get to your fans type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a good way to interact and connect with people at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Which is really its core roots. But
so where is your most favourite place that you performed?
I think I can narrow it down to sort of a couple of places. Nissi Beach in Cyprus was one of my favourite places, mainly just because of the view, to be honest. So you're on the beachfront, and then you've got I think it's about 400 people. So not one of the biggest venues in the world, but you're quite raised high up, so you see everyone enjoying themselves, and then you have this wonderful landscape of sort of the beachfront and all the sea. And
I can't fault you there.
So wicked in terms of just sort of location on that, and then again just anywhere where a crowd's enjoying themselves. Like I've seen that in multiple different places at festivals or sort of more intimate places. But if people are happy, I'm happy. That's kind of where I want to go with it.
Nice. So what's the best advice you've ever been given?
I'm trying to sort of think now. I think probably best advice really was just try not to overthink. I'm a bit of an overthinker myself anyway, and just kind of do what you think is right. Don't constantly sort of second guess yourself and that sort of thing. Just do your best, do what you can. Obviously, you've still got to give things consideration, but try not to get bogged down, especially with producing and that sort of thing. Just make music that you enjoy.
Yes.
Otherwise, what's the point? If you're making music for other people and you're not enjoying it yourself, yes, it's other people, but it's always going to peter out.
It's more like a chore than
exactly. Yeah, if it's a chore, you can't be creative anyway, especially in this industry.
Exactly. Have you ever thought about coming from behind the decks and going, like, performing yourself?
As in, sort of, well, you don't ever want to hear me sing, first of all. Yeah, not necessarily. I've done a bit of work where I've done some sort of MCing and sort of talking and presenting, which I do quite enjoy. But yeah, I quite enjoy being behind the decks.
Is that your safe space?
Yeah, I enjoy it. Like, I've done a lot of stuff on the sort of event management side, which I find quite interesting, and running events and that sort of stuff. So almost step away from the stage and away from the decks and go even further back. But yeah, it's one of those really. I've done a couple of things, sort of trying to play live and that sort of thing. But again, it's all about creating what's right for the event as well. But I definitely enjoy DJing.
Nice.
The most.
What would you be doing right now if you didn't take up music as a career?
Well, to be honest, my original plan was to become a pilot, to be fair. So potentially that, but I kind of just fell into loving music and that sort of thing.
It does grab a hold of people, doesn't it? Music.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just the enjoyment and just the. I can't fault it at all.
Yeah, to me, it's like a language that everyone can speak.
Everyone, yeah, exactly. Like you could go to a show abroad, or you could go to a show anywhere, and you could meet people that don't even speak the same language, but you're all there because you love the music at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And you don't even need to interact. You still have that connection with people, just through a common love, a common interest. So I think that's really, really nice, especially seeing it all over the world. With that sort of music, so yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I've got one or two more questions left.
Yeah, no worries.
So, let's not go to the super serious ones first.
You gotta brace myself for those.
So yeah, if you could eat like one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One food is quite tricky. I might be able to narrow it down to a dish, but
I know. Honestly, I would struggle with this question.
It's very difficult. Like, I've always loved pasta. Don't get me wrong. That was always something when I was a kid. That was what I ate.
A good mac and cheese
all the time. I absolutely love pasta. But then, yeah, similar to rice, like chicken and rice. Just could go with that. Probably would want the sauce every now and again, but I could do chicken and rice for the rest of my life to an extent.
That's a good answer. Yeah. I approve of that answer. So yeah, who would you like to collaborate with, and why?
I think probably two answers, like sort of local artists. I'm really interested to collaborate with sort of people that, yes, are sort of in the scene, but also artists that are not necessarily doing house music, something to just give a bit of difference. So yeah, potentially like people within the scene. Lewis Acton's really, really nice guy. Yeah. Hopefully get on a collaboration with him sometime soon. And then sort of with sort of international, that sort of thing. Sonny Fodera would be a really wicked collaboration. Especially he has a lot of inspiration in my music. And that sort of thing, and then again, Martin Garrix would just because that's where it all started. Exactly. And from the looks of it, like he really has a passion for what he does, and especially that seems to have been shown through all the creative process. Like he likes to get in the studio, he likes to just play instruments and that sort of thing, rather than sitting down trying to drag MIDI keys and that sort of thing. Just go and play it, and then work out how to do that afterwards. Which I always think is much more enjoyable to do.
I think that's well, when I think of doing anything musically in a creative
Yeah.
process, that will be it.
Just try and do it.
Have your fun first, and then
you've
try
got to
and
work
make it
out.
into
Yeah,
something.
the amount of songs that you start and you don't finish
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because you've got through the creative bit and you're like, oh, I've got to EQ that snare or something like that. But yeah.
I hear you, man. I hear you. So to you, how would you define success?
Oh, we've gone on to the tricky questions now. In terms of DJing, really, firstly, just to enjoy myself and to sort of express that enjoyment to sort of people around. I'd love to go touring and sort of play bigger shows and that sort of thing. So potentially, I'd see that as a level of success, sort of as everyone would say, like sort of high up chart hits, that sort of thing. But again, very much just sort of being able to enjoy and still being able to share what I do with as many people as possible. That's kind of where just like experience and present the music.
That is
to everyone.
so wholesome. I can't lie. That's such a wholesome answer. And yeah, last question: where can we find you?
Socials wise, so I'm at Haze Music UK on Instagram, or there's everything else on my website at hazemusic.co.uk.
Oh, website, nice.
And then you can find me dotting around Nottingham most of the time. So I've got the Nottingham Beach, which has just opened. So I've got that coming up this weekend.
Oh, you're doing that this weekend?
Yes, this Saturday. So that'll be good. And then hopefully in Ibiza if you're out in Ibiza as well. So
any more upcoming shows?
Off the top of my head, Beach. I'm off to Spain on Sunday, this coming Sunday, to go and play a cruise between Spain, Ibiza and Mallorca, so that'll be quite nice. Get out in the Mediterranean on the sea, so get some sunshine. But yeah, and then hopefully back out to Ibiza a couple more times before the end of the summer season. But yeah,
lovely. So yeah, if you're going to Ibiza anytime soon, hit up my man Haze. Yeah, this has been the interview. It was lovely having you on.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's been a great conversation.
Very good answers. It was lovely. So, yeah, man. Check us out next time. Peace. We went from the superpower one, didn't we?
Yes, yeah. Bit of a curveball for me. I had to think on my toes there.
That's what we need.